Let me introduce you to our next guest. We have certainly had a bit of a response on Twitter, which is where he has a great following about the fact that he is coming onto the programme. If you were listening to the show last week, you may have heard me speaking to the new International Trade Secretary, Liz Truss, from the Conservative Party conference. Do you know how you'll do it with leaving with no deal on the 31st?
Well, no, that's clear.
Politicians via an earpiece, either during... Sorry, Boris Johnson has also said he won't break the law. So I just wanted to know, have you been told as a cabinet how you will do it?
No.
The comedy writer and actor Michael Spicer saw that clip too. He's become a bit of an internet sensation by making videos which appear to show him in another room, giving advice and feeding lines to politicians via an earpiece, either during interviews or speeches. They're called Room Next Door videos, have been watched 10 million times in total and counting. Here's Michael's interpretation of that Liz Truss conversation. Do you know how you'll do it with leaving with no deal on the 31st?
Well,
it's ultimately the responsibility of the Prime Minister.
It's ultimately the responsibility of the Prime Minister.
No, the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister.
OK, say it like that now. To negotiate with the EU.
To negotiate with the EU.
And... No, but if that fails, how will you leave with no deal? Because you'll break the law if you do.
Oh, God, hang on. Ask her if she's got a question about apples.
Sorry, Boris Johnson has also said he won't break the law. So I just wanted to know, have you been told as a cabinet how you will do it?
Yes, of course we have, but we are under strict instructions not to divulge any information that could...
No.
You plum! Sorry.
Different take on the interview. Michael Spicer, welcome to the programme. Of course, as we've already had a message, which you would expect on Twitter, saying from Chris, I will be recording a room next door to the man in the room next door as a follow-up to your interview. Have you got an earpiece in now?
Yeah, no, it's I wouldn't go down that route. It's too meta, and then the whole...
It's quite hard.
...idea will implode.
Tell us where the idea came from.
It was back when... Boris Johnson got caught short with describing what hobbies he has. And when he started fumbling around and came up with the idea that he made model buses, it looked very much like he was listening to somebody. And the thing about Twitter and that particular thing is that it was going viral anyway. And I was at work, and then when I got home, I thought, I suppose I could make it seem like there was a man in the room next door feeding him those lines. And then I thought, no, I won't do that. I'm busy. Because...
I'm busy with my life.
Yeah. Well, I had to put my sons to bed, and I had to make dinner. And I had like half... Because the thing is, it was really low-hanging fruit. It was just a very sort of strange comic moment in its own right. And I thought, well, what can I do that would make that any better? So... But I had half an hour, so I did it.
You thought, oh, well, I'll give it a go.
I'll give it a go, and wrote it, filmed it, edited it, and tweeted it in that evening. And then it just went completely crazy.
It has, hasn't it? Have you been overwhelmed by it?
Completely overwhelmed. I'm just a normal person.
I'm just a normal person pretending to be in politicians' ears when I have a spare half an hour.
When I have a spare half an hour, I film it on my phone. The first one I didn't have a tripod, so I balanced the phone on a pile of my children's books, so that's why it had that strange angle.
Yes. Well, let's listen to another example. This was your response to the Prime Minister's recent address to the United Nations.
Yeah.
Your mattress will monitor your nightmares. Your fridge will beep for more cheese.
What are you saying? What are these words that you're saying right now?
Your front door will sweep wide the moment you approach like some silent butler.
Doors don't open like butlers. Doors are opened by butler. What are you even talking about? Who approved this load of old fudge? Just get back to AI.
AI.
What will it mean?
What will it mean?
We just don't know yet.
Helpful robots washing and caring for an aging population.
Robots washing what? Robot washing what?
Pink-eyed Terminators sent back from the future to cull the human race.
Can they start with you?
There you go. A bit more insight. That was you with Boris Johnson, as it were. Do you just do figures from the right? You Donald Trump, or
no.
are you after everyone?
I would go after. I mean, I've done the Dalai Lama because he did land himself in hot water. So if there is a car crash interview, I will do it. And people have said, well, why don't you go? Go to the left as well as the right, go centre. But the fact is that Johnson and Trump are gold. They're delivering moments of incredible incompetence.
Let's listen to the Dalai Lama, can we?
Okay,
we'll have a little listen to that bit. This is when he was asked about wanting an attractive successor or along those lines.
That you would be open to a female successor.
Yep, that's possible.
That's also possible.
You also told one of my colleagues that female must be attractive, otherwise it's not much use.
Oh, mate, you didn't. All right, just deny that.
Okay, yes.
Just say real beauty is inner beauty.
Real beauty is inner beauty.
Thank you.
But we human being,
No, there's no but. You're done.
I think the appearance is also important.
Oh, all right, we're done. You're on your own, Hugh Hefner.
Yeah, Dalai Lama and Hugh Hefner doesn't usually go together.
Not really, no. But I felt I'm kind of I like calling people names. Not in general life, but
in
I mean
this
on
context.
this, yes.
I mean, what's interesting, obviously, being the person who does the interviews, is that one of the things within politics that has become, and people say, they argue about when it started, but a lot of people say it began with Tony Blair and intensified under David Cameron, who was, of course, a spin doctor in his previous existence before being a politician, is our job, my job as I see it, one part of it, is to try and get to the core of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And their job is to stick to a script.
Yeah.
Which is, some of them don't. And then sometimes actually in that Liz Truss interview, for instance, you could say she'd answered the question. She said, no, I don't know.
Yes, that's true. She did say that. But I think, well, I suppose that is a good question. I mean, I feel sorry for Liz Truss in a way, because she seems to be trapped in this kind of narrative. So in many ways, that is quite an honest thing to do, because I expect there are many politicians who, well, in fact, there are. I mean, I've gone back in the archive to try and find other sort of historical versions of this. I've looked at Margaret Thatcher interviews. You cannot find anything on her. She is
like this, like these moments,
like this, rigid and focused and talking, making sure there's no gaps. So there are politicians that just know how to work this environment.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, it's one thing, I suppose, admitting if you don't know something. I suppose the other thing is then keeping going with the other bit of the script. That's what makes the dissonance for people. And I mean, just to say, I always like to try and pull the curtain back on interviews if I can. I mean, when I first did Mrs. May and it was in her office in Downing Street, there's a whole group of people. We're not on our own, the two of us. It may look like we are, but there's a whole group of people. There's like two editors from our side, and then there's her whole team. And I suppose what is interesting is, has anyone been in touch with you from the political world to say, well, I'm not quite in the other room in an earpiece, but I am their PR person, I am their special advisor, and when they go off the script, I am thinking, just ask about apples. Yes,
there have been people that have said, this is what it's like, how did you know?
Really?
But I don't know. It's just, I'm a comedian and I look at things from a humorous point of view, and that's how it is. That's how it appears to me.
That's really interesting that you've looked back through history and it's changed.
Yes. I think just because of the extraordinary circumstances we're in now, you're finding a lot more cracks, whereas before it seemed a bit more polished. And unfortunately, because of social media and the way Trump just relentlessly tweets, there is this theory that they know what they're doing. And I think that they do to a certain extent, but they can't help but let their own character run away with it.
Yes, and come through.
I'm sure Boris Johnson probably thought, this stuff about pink-eyed Terminators, that will make people chuckle. That's good. But then he just kind of pushes it a little bit more until the chuckling disappears and people just become really embarrassed.
Are you going to get your own show? Because lots of people would love that.
I don't know. The way you just played those clips, it kind of it does work as a radio show, doesn't it?
We could do it on the radio.
If anybody's listening, I'm in 5. Where's 4?
You're ready. You're ready for whoever's listening.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, and for you though, have you had what was like your friends and family said about this?
What have they said? Well, they're all very, very supportive and they're very excited. My mum and dad, they're of the "that's nice, dear."
When you've got a spare half an hour, you're just taking apart political interviews.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that sounds good. Well, good luck with that. Anyway,
it's not your day job, is it?
It's not my day job.
What is your day
I'm
job?
a copywriter.
And what do your copywriter colleagues make of this? Are they into it?
I like to keep those things separate because it's a delicate balance, and I like to do this, and I also like to earn a living.
You know, there's someone in the next studio going, "Don't tell her what they really said."
Don't tell him what they're really saying. Exactly. And maybe I will edit myself into this.
Let's get meta. I'm up for it. It's very, very good to meet you, and I'm really enjoying your work. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Cheers, Emma.
Michael Spicer, Mr. Michael Spicer. You can find him, the man in the other room.